Let's bring in this morning's roundtable. A lot to talk about this morning. Joining me are Stephen Henderson from Detroit Today, WDET. Former Detroit City Councilwoman Sheila Cockrell is back with us. Former United States Congressman, Republican Mike Bishop is here. And from the Detroit News editorial page editor Nolan Finley. Gang, thanks very much. Nolan, let me start with you. I think you're concerned, coming off my conversation with Dave Coulter, I think you've got some concern about, it clearly was an unholy mess, the way that we saw the fire drill develop around. But now that that we have someone in place, a lot of those appointees that Brooks had surrounded himself with, people around, they are retiring, giving up their positions, and I think you're concerned about
the brains of Oakland County walked out the door. You lose a guy like Robert Dadow, who's probably the best numbers guy, the best money guy in government in Michigan. Jerry Poison, Phil Bertolini's leaving at the end of the month. Lori Van Pelt. That's a lot of brain power to leave at once, and the county's going to notice that. Doesn't matter who's in that county executive seat. Those people were key to making Oakland County run the way it has been running for the last 20 years.
Oakland County resident, you're shaking your head, yes?
Well, this is a real loss for Oakland County. I would say that Oakland County's government is one of the best run governments in all of the United States. It has been, it assembled one of the greatest set of leaders under Brooks Patterson anywhere in the United States. Everywhere I go, when I was in Congress, they talked about Oakland County and used it as an example of how to run a government. So this is a huge loss from Brooks's perspective, obviously, but also from all of his team that's gone now.
We just heard from Dave Coulter. You had him on your program. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, but I was just going to say, they walked out. Nobody made them leave. So I guess the question has to be, if people care so deeply about the county and the shape it was in and its reputation, why did they all walk out?
Well, I think there certainly was some distaste about the way that the entire process worked. As I mentioned earlier, they were going to hold a meeting on succession. It was scheduled for during the time of the funeral.
Right.
I mean, that was, I think some people felt insulted.
They might have.
Fair to say?
But, you know, political hijinks not new in Oakland County, and Brooks was as adept at that as anybody else. You know, he rigged the system for districting so to make sure that there was still a Republican majority long after that would have been supported by voters. Look, this is politics. And look, if you care that much about the government that you helped build, you should have stayed. I mean, Dave Coulter said, I will keep anybody who wants to stay.
Yep.
He sees himself as a transition figure. He's trying to ease the loss of Brooks. They didn't want to do it.
All right, let's move down I-75. This was a story that the Free Press broke. They broke it the night before Brooks Patterson passed away. Of the same weekend, we had El Paso and Dayton. It's gotten very little attention. But Sheila Cockrell, clearly the Duggan administration was not telling us the truth about how hard they worked to try to get funding for the Make Your Date organization. I don't know how much trouble you would be in for trying to help a nonprofit get funding. I do have a fair idea of how much trouble you're in when you don't tell the truth about that and when you try to delete emails of the past. It's not the crime, it's always the cover-up, right?
Correct. And right now there are multiple investigations that are ongoing, the Inspector General, the State Attorney General, and we're going to have to see where, what they come out with, because deleting emails is not something that is acceptable under any circumstance.
Nolan, we haven't been told the truth here, obviously.
Well, yeah, and here we go again. You know, it's almost unbelievable that once again you got a mayor who can't control his personal behavior, his personal appetites, bringing scandal to a city that doesn't need scandal, doesn't need any more of these kind of scandals. And it is really disheartening because a lot of people put a lot of stock in Mike Duggan. And for him to go slipping around like this and using his office to help his girlfriend, I mean, we've seen that before, and we didn't expect that out of him.
Stephen, your thoughts? What's going to happen here?
So, I mean, I'm still just agog at the idea that anybody in this day and age thinks, hey, the way to fix this is let's delete some emails. I mean, Hillary Clinton is not the president of the United States because she deleted emails. Why would anyone have suggested that that was true? And the idea that there hasn't been, more pressure on this administration from the press, from other places, to explain that or to have some consequences mete out is one of the things that I'm also a little surprised by. I mean,
so far, again, I think it's interesting that this has been as quiet as it has. I haven't felt a great deal of public conversation about it because of it in the middle of the summer and all the other things that happened that weekend. But you would expect somebody is going to have to pay for this with a job.
Absolutely. I mean, can you imagine keeping someone on if they did this, or if it happened and they didn't know it happened?
Yeah. Let's turn our attention to Washington, because it was a really fascinating week, Mike Bishop. I'm a little lost on a number of things about where the president's head is on. But let's start with his changing positions on background checks and guns. Is there do we have any map for where he wants the country to go?
I can't speak for the president, but I know this is one of his.
You're the first person that's ever said that.
No, I think that he's trying the best he can to find some kind of medium, where folks can come together and try and find a solution. This is one of those issues that there is no one solution. And as a leader, he's got to come forward with ideas and try to rally folks around it. He's bringing members into the White House to talk it through, and he's just finding a brick wall. If this were a solution by either party, they've had control of the chamber in the past, they would have done it already. They haven't done it for a reason. There's not a complete plan out there to address the problem. Laws are supposed to solve a problem, not create one. And we have all these laws, we're just not following them.
Right, but we also have a huge consensus in the country that this has to be addressed. People want to get rid of assault weapons, people want background checks, people want the red flag stuff going on. I mean, who doesn't want this stuff are lobbyists in Washington who have an extraordinary and immoral, if not immoral, hold on people in the United States Congress. That's the problem. People want something done. Nobody feels safe anywhere in this country right now. If you go to the show, if you go to a mall, where can you go? A church, a synagogue, a mosque? Where can you go where there's not the threat that with more guns than people in the United States, somebody's not going to get shot?
None of these laws are going to change that fact. There's still going to be 300 million guns on the streets of America. Now, the last thing I heard the president say, if you look at it, it doesn't sound like he's that far off the people who are pushing universal background check, because he said correctly.
He kind of waffled twice.
He said there are circles I want to close, and that's basically
Is there a great argument to be made against universal background checks that I'm not really aware of?
There are some areas that, like if you pass a gun from father to son or sell a gun to your cousin, there's some areas you might not want the government in the middle of your business. But what he said here, what people are asking for, is to close the private sale exemption. And when the president said, there are circles we need to close, I think he might be saying the same thing, or he may be saying the same thing.
So increasingly, I am starting to think that we're doing this all the wrong way. We've got to start thinking of this as a public health crisis. This needs to be treated the way tobacco was 20 years ago, right? You make a legal product that kills people. That does not exempt you from obligation or responsibility, and Congress has every right to reach out through the Commerce Clause to the gun industry and the people who sell these things to say, listen, it's not going to be the same way that it has been. And when you think about the public health threat that this poses to people in this country, it is not different.
I heard someone else
cigarettes.
make the tobacco comparison last week, and the slapback was, but cigarettes aren't protected in the Constitution.
And nor do they protect you from others who might want to kill you.
Nor is the manufacture or sale of weapons. The Second Amendment doesn't say anything about that. That's commerce. It is not expression, and so it's not protected.
Let me get to a quick break. We'll come back, we'll continue on this, and we got to get to Greenland.
Yeah.
Back with more. This is Flashpoint on Local 4.